got one fault. He wants to be the star too often. And it's really getting on my nerves because he's spoiling great games. And it's not about you, Mike. It's about the game. People come here and pay good money to see football, not for you to get over officious.
He was the best player on the pitch far more often than people admitted, yet somehow he became the one so many turned against. From the moment Garth Crooks broke into professional football as a teenager at Stoke City, his talent was undeniable, but so was the pressure that came with being one of the few black players in English football during the 1970s. Whispers echoed across stadium rows, ugly chants hid behind the noise, and admiration quickly twisted into jealousy and hostility. People praised him publicly but mocked him privately. It was the beginning of a storm he never deserved. Every time he delivered a clutch performance, instead of earning respect, he earned resentment. As one of the first black strikers in the league, Crooks constantly battled stereotypes and expectations placed on him simply because of who he was. Supporters questioned his attitude, not his ability, twisting small mistakes into weapons against him. His greatness became the very reason some people pushed him away. The higher he climbed, the more isolated he felt in a game that needed him more than it ever admitted. Behind the scenes, he tried to stay humble, tried to let his football speak for him, but the negativity kept growing. Players whispered that he was too confident, even when he was helping them win matches with his goals and movement. Fans labeled him arrogant simply because he carried himself with pride during an era when black players were expected to stay quiet. His reputation was rewritten by people who never understood what he faced. He was fighting battles most never saw. What hurt him the most wasn't criticism from strangers, but the betrayal from people inside the sport. Some teammates kept a distance. Some coaches underestimated him no matter how well he performed. He didn't just face rivalry. He faced a system that wasn't built for players like him, and yet he showed up every single match, determined to prove that talent had no color and that he belonged on the biggest stages of English football. Still, despite the mistreatment, Crooks remained the player who carried teams when everything fell apart. At Stoke, he became their top scorer. At Tottenham, he became part of a trophy-winning squad. His speed, intelligence, and finishing ability made him a constant threat. But deep down, he wondered why being excellent came with such a heavy price, why talent attracted enemies instead of allies. His story wasn't just about greatness, it was about surviving the darkness surrounding it. As the seasons passed, the weight of disrespect shaped him in ways no one expected. He became quieter, more focused, letting his football speak louder than the insults thrown his way. But even then, people twisted his calmness into ego. The truth was, he was just protecting his peace. Every match felt like entering an arena where some people wanted him to fail simply because he wasn't white. What they didn't realize was that every cruel moment only sharpened his determination. Every hateful chant became fuel. Every racist comment became a reminder of why he fought. Crooks didn't rise to prove his doubters wrong. He rose to prove himself right. Even when surrounded by hostility, he refused to back down. That unshakable spirit became the reason his legacy would outlast the voices that tried to drown him. He showed the world what strength truly looked like. He began his career with nothing but raw passion and the desire to break barriers. As a young Stoke City striker, he trained in silence, focused on standing out in a league where black players were judged before they even touched the ball. Scouts noticed his pace, his positioning, and his fearless commitment. Within months, he became one of the brightest talents in English football. But greatness always comes with obstacles waiting ahead. When he stepped deeper into professional football, expectations doubled. Thousands watched his every touch, every mistake, every moment of brilliance. Yet Crooks carried himself with the confidence of a player who knew his worth. His early seasons saw him rise rapidly, earning national attention and proving he belonged at the top. Tottenham Hotspur took notice, bringing him in to strengthen their attack. It was clear that a star had truly arrived. With each season, his performances grew sharper. He scored in European competitions, becoming the first black player to score for Spurs in Europe. He lifted the FA Cup with Tottenham in 1981, securing his place in club history. Analysts praised his intelligence, his off-the-ball movement, and his ability to unlock defenses. Opponents prepared specifically for him because they knew how dangerous he could be. His rise was unstoppable. His stats became the talk among journalists and fans alike. Goals, assists, and big game performances defined his reputation. Managers trusted him in decisive moments, knowing he delivered under pressure. Year after year, he showed consistency at the highest level. Even legends acknowledged the quality he brought to every pitch he stepped on. His career became a blueprint for future generations of black players in England. But while success grew, a darker reality followed. Crowds hurled racist insults not because of his football, but because of his skin. Brilliant performances were answered with monkey chants. Whenever he raised his level, the abuse rose too. Racial slurs echoed across stadiums. For Crooks, football was never just football, it was survival. It was a battle he never asked to fight. The abuse intensified as he became more visible. Away fans targeted him relentlessly. Some opponents made comments they thought he wouldn't hear, but he heard everything. Each word left a mark. Still, Crooks kept playing, kept scoring, kept leading his team forward. But every match became a reminder that being great wasn't the only burden he carried. Being black made him a target in the sport he loved, even in stadiums that celebrated him. Hate found its way through the noise. Bananas thrown from the stands, fans imitating monkeys, chants designed to humiliate. Authorities promised action, but real change was slow. Crooks learned to smile through pain the world wasn't ready to confront. It was the silent burden of being a pioneer. Despite everything, he never allowed racism to break him. He kept fighting through every match. Reporters often asked how he stayed composed, but he rarely shared the depth of the emotional toll. Speaking out risked backlash, so he let resilience become his statement. His silence wasn't fear. It was a shield forged through years of being targeted unfairly. Teammates respected his work ethic. They saw the hours he put into training, the discipline he carried, the humility he showed, but few understood the emotional battles he fought. Once the stadium lights turned off, nights spent asking why talent couldn't shield him from hate, days pretending he wasn't affected because the world expected him to be strong. Eventually, he reached the peak of his playing career. He became a key figure everywhere he played. Fans admired him. Young black players finally had someone to look up to. But behind the scenes, he carried the weight of years of racism. He didn't want the next generation to feel what he had felt. That responsibility stayed with him. As retirement approached, Crooks reflected on everything he endured. Football had given him fame and purpose, but it had also exposed him to the darker sides of society. He couldn't walk away without fighting for change. He couldn't let the next generation face the same abuse alone. His life had prepared him for something bigger than the sport itself. After hanging up his boots, he became a powerful voice in the fight against racism. Through his work with the Professional Footballers Association, PFA, Crooks pushed for stronger protections for players. He demanded reforms, better reporting systems, and harsher punishments for racist incidents. This wasn't just a role, it was the mission shaped by his own pain. He launched campaigns, spoke at events, and worked alongside organizations determined to transform English football. He brought attention to the issue when others stayed silent. He made sure stories of abuse were heard and taken seriously. Slowly, the world began to listen. The change he long dreamed of began to take root. Through interviews, speeches, and constant advocacy, he shared his experiences, not for sympathy, but for justice. He wanted the world to understand the damage racism caused, not just to careers, but to human lives. His honesty struck a chord with supporters across the country. Fans demanded action. Clubs implemented new measures. His influence spread far beyond the pitch. More players joined him, sharing their own experiences and supporting the mission. The movement grew stronger. Stadiums that once echoed racism now echoed solidarity. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. And progress meant everything to him. He met with leaders, policymakers, and football officials. He insisted that racism in football required structural change, not temporary statements. His leadership shined as he pushed the sport toward accountability. He transformed his suffering into a catalyst for transformation. His voice changed the landscape of English football forever. Celebrities, athletes, and activists backed his message. His impact reached beyond football into wider society. He became not just a former striker, but a respected social leader. People admired how he turned pain into purpose, how he became a symbol for justice. His story proved that true greatness isn't measured solely in goals, it's measured in change.